Hello and welcome. My name is Tom. This is the Enthusiasm Project Season 6, Episode 4, the podcast where 15 minutes of content is stretched to 55 minutes by an ugly guy who talks funny and doesn't know what he's talking about, with no credibility and just trying to shill products for a paycheck. Sorry, I had your mic muted. What did you say?
Someone called you ugly?
Oh, yes. That intro is not, believe it or not, my actual tagline for the podcast, as catchy as it is. Those are all, that's a mashup of comments that I've gotten in the past couple of weeks. So that's what we're talking about today with a commentary on comments. I deleted all of the ones except for the one. Well, I responded to some. This is what we'll talk about. I responded to some.
I need to get up in there if someone called you ugly. I need to defend that one.
There's also a weird thing on one video specifically where people, it's a mix of people telling me that I look like a little kid, and I don't know what I'm talking about, and then other people telling me I look like an old person trying to look like a little kid. So it's all on one video. I don't know. But anyway, it's very nice to have you here. We are going to talk about comments today. Tomments on commentary. And to do that, I have a very special guest making her first appearance in season 6, and that would be my lovely wife, Heather.
Hi, I am wife.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
I know, gosh.
To be here with me today. And obviously, like, this episode kind of continues something that we talked about on a couples table episode maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago at the time that you're hearing this, where we're just goofing about my comments and talking about my comments and things, and there was kind of more to it that I wanted to go into, and also maybe even there's more to it. On top of that, there's also a great new strategy I have come up with for myself, which has really been helping. So I want to talk about that because I think it could be helpful. And then a big reason that I wanted you here is because you have a perspective on comments that I think is really important. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody else talk about it that way. And so I think that that's really important. We touched on it on the couples table, but now we can go totally in depth. So before we do that, though, just a couple quick notes talking about microphones. So for this run of episodes, what I'm trying to do is use different microphones every week, which is very fun for me as someone who likes to experiment with microphones, and terrible for consistency because it's different every time. But we've got some neat stuff happening right now, pun fully intended, because I am on the neat King Bee 2. Which is it's a nice, neat microphone. And in the interest of full disclosure, so you don't think I'm just a shill trying to sell products for a paycheck, Neat did send me this microphone for free, which was pretty neat. And I don't have to do anything with it. I'm just using it because I actually really like it. Haven't made a video about this. I'm not sure if I will, but it's a cool microphone. I think it sounds awesome. The only downside I found so far, which is super subjective, is that it's very, very heavy. So depending on your boom arm or how you want to mount it, you might have issues with that. I have it on the PSA 1 Plus and it's okay, but it is a super heavy microphone. And then to match that up, I can't think of it, to sweeten the deal, I have my honey here.
Wow.
Yes. On the Neat Worker Bee, the original one, which I just bought myself ages ago, and it's a really good microphone. So we're both on Neat mics.
Neat mics.
You sound good on every mic, but you sound really good on this one. So anyway, that's what we're using today. If you're wondering, very curious what you think about that. Next week is going to be a Q&A episode, so keep an eye out. If you're listening to this when I first posted it, keep an eye out on like Twitter and Instagram and such, so that way you can submit questions. All right, I think that's like the housekeeping stuff, and now we can dive on in to the topic. So I have like things that I want to cover, but when I came up with this episode idea, I didn't know that you were going to be a part of it. So I want to take advantage of that opportunity, especially because you've been on YouTube longer than I have. You've been putting out content and therefore getting feedback longer than I have. You are also a female who creates content, and as I can fully firsthand attest to, that means you're subject to sometimes
just different kinds of
comments.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's your relationship with comments? Well, I guess let's stick with YouTube. What's your relationship with YouTube comments, either as a creator and or as a viewer?
Well, I like the YouTube comment section because I really think that the comment section, as vicious as it can be, I feel like it is a place where people are open to conversation, unlike on social media, where I feel like it's just people responding to other people's hot takes and everything has to be controversial and you have to make a point and all this. But
hot takes no one asked for.
Yeah, I feel like on YouTube, I feel like there's more, I don't know if benefit of the doubt is the angle, but people are more likely to inform or add on to the conversation, which is helpful. It, obviously it is a YouTube comment section, so it can be very vicious as a creator. Yeah.
I will say, I don't know when they did it, but when they started adding like the upvote, downvote system.
Yeah.
That really helped because when you, at least the kind of videos you and I watch, it means that the comments you're seeing first are
quality comments.
Are the quality ones. They're actually adding something or even just being entertaining. Whereas then you scroll down to the bottom and it's, even if it's just the ones that are just like first.
Yeah, you.
It's like I don't need to read that.
As I scroll down, I don't know what video I was looking at, but I was scrolling down. I think it must have been a video on a couples table episode, because people will watch the old ones, and then I scroll down, and the further you go down in the comments, the more like the poorer the grammar or the shorter the comment or the more random.
It's like an upside down triangle.
Where exactly.
The ones at the top are not that I actually kind of dislike super long comments, at least as a creator, because it's sort of uncomfortable. Yeah. But you go down and they get shorter and shorter till it is literally like first. Yeah. Or I got one yesterday that was just the letter A.
Too excited to post first. You had to just post whatever.
I gotta leave a comment. And we met through the YouTube, YouTube comment section.
Exactly. That's why I really value it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The internet's just been mean lately,
I think things have definitely gotten meaner in the past year or two. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons that might be the case. And then on my end of things, just like as my channel has grown, it obviously like changes the dynamics a bit. And then not even that it's like a super massive channel, but it's different than when there were 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And it just brings in a different level of people where even though the channel's not massive by any means, there's I can tell people approach things with like they come into it with preconceived notions just based on
oh my gosh,
stuff like that.
So I know this kind of is what I wanted to talk about on the next episode of the Couples Table. So this is random, but the Couples Table is a live stream podcast that Tom and I do over on my channel, Heather Just Great. And usually we don't come up with a topic until like that day. And I always get excited whenever we come up with a topic before. And this is one of those times. It's Saturday. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have the topic. And, oh my gosh, we have to wait till Thursday. But basically the topic is like, you can't, it's like, it's almost like you have to come up with defensive stances before even expressing anything, because you have to anticipate like, oh, someone's gonna say and it's like, why are you, that's not how people talk in real life. So if you're saying like, I like this camera, it doesn't mean that you dislike that camera.
Exactly. And part of that I don't think is bad, because it's like creating something with your audience in mind is important. Like I used to teach that as an English teacher. Who's your audience? What's your purpose? All that stuff. It's the same thing on YouTube. And you're putting stuff out there for them. And I think it's good. Like if I say this, someone is probably going to have this question or have this response. If that's something that I think a lot of people are going to have, or that's super valid, I should just address that now instead of having to write it out 10,000 times.
But it's dumb that like literally I have been witness to your entire YouTube journey from day one.
True.
And I think that one of the things that I will take credit in contributing to is the transparency of your behind the scenes and your process and your growth, and really sharing that. And I think that is because you saw me do it.
Yeah. And you're super transparent.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what I love about your content and your channel, is that everything is there. You're very open, but it sucks that like even though you're the same person and you always strive to be better, the fact that you have a bigger channel now is offensive, even though you're the same person as when you had 10 subscribers.
Yeah.
And that just annoys me that has to come with the territory.
And it's a total catch-22 because if I like right before we did this podcast, at the time we're recording this, I think we're recording like a week before it comes out because I'm trying to be proactive. But at the time we're recording this, my most recent video was the why I switched to Sony camera videos, which we've talked about on this podcast many times. Right before coming in here, the comment I got that I didn't even mean to read, but it just popped up was, how much did Sony pay you to make this video? And I'm like, I know you're saying that because you go to my channel, you see there's cameras, there's like, you see that like it's an established channel with a decent sized audience. If I had 200 subscribers, you wouldn't say that. But also, if I had 200 subscribers, then you might not want to watch the video because you would be like, why am I going to, there's that other side of it where people don't want to listen to someone, even if it's literally the exact same video, just because the numbers are smaller, which it's like, so you can't win.
And see, that's why it sucks because it's like you said, it's that preconceived notion of like, whoever hurt you, who had a bigger channel and offended you by getting free stuff, now they're bringing that baggage to you. And so you can't take the video for what it is. And it just sucks because I know that Sony didn't pay you anything.
Yeah,
and everyone knows, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you know that Tom is so particular.
Those are the ones that really bug me almost the most.
Yeah, because you mean, you have this, what is it called? The ethics statement that so many people have like
borrowed
taken
or emulated
and like, created their own thing about how you handle this. And gosh, you were the person who never wanted to take anything. You don't want to make any money on your YouTube channel. That's why it annoys me because it's like you're telling this guy of all people.
That's why it annoys me too. And it even goes into the like, I always link to all that stuff in every video description. I'm always super clear on like not sponsored. If something is given to me, always super clear on that. Always super clear on the terms too. Like it was given to me, don't have to do it. Like everything that I think you need to know, you'll know. But it's crazy that you can go like, this video is not sponsored. I paid for all this stuff myself. No, this is totally sponsored. You're lying. It's like, I don't know what to tell you because I'm the one that did it. And I know, like, do I need to post my like B&H photo invoice or whatever? And even if you did that, people would be like, well, they'd probably just credited you back after you paid it.
You're not going to win.
There's no way to win. And so that's...
Well, it's not about winning.
No, it's not about winning, but there's no way. For me, the struggle is I like context and correctness. And so if something is inaccurate and out of context, I like to try to remedy that.
Yeah.
And that's a very logical approach to things. But when you're dealing with someone who's just being an ignorant butt in the comment section, you're not dealing with logic. And so you can't take a logical approach to an illogical situation and expect anything to happen.
Yeah.
And it's very, very tough. And so one of the things that people say is just ignore it. Just ignore the bad comments. Don't pay attention to the bad comments. Just ignore it. Just forget it. Who cares? And this is where I think that's bad advice. And I've never known why. And I think you really explain why that's bad advice. It might work for some people. Everybody has different personalities, so some people might be able to just ignore it and move on and it's nothing. It doesn't work for me. I don't think it works for you. I don't think it works for a lot of people that we know, a lot of people who even listen to this podcast. So what do you think when people say, just ignore it, just ignore the bad comments?
I understand where people are coming from when they say this, because you have to set your own boundaries. Okay. Like you are letting people into your space, and you know that that's going to affect you because you are a empathetic person that wants to do right by people. Okay. So obviously that's how, it is going to bother you 6 hours later.
Yeah.
So I understand, just like, don't even try. I understand.
Why do that to yourself?
Exactly.
You don't have to.
Because it's a choice, right? Like you have to look at the comments for it to even affect you in the first place. However, knowing that one of the really cool special things about YouTube is being able to share your enthusiasm and have conversations and have a voice and make an impact on people, that's connection and communication. Okay, it's a two-way dialogue, and YouTube is awesome for being able to enable that. Yeah. Telling someone to just ignore comments, to me, is like telling somebody to not be human. It's like invalidating your humanity, because you have to be like, you know, you shouldn't have a reaction to this.
It almost reminds me of someone saying that like anxiety is all in your head. It's not the same thing, but I get that same thing of like, but that now I also feel bad for feeling bad. Like,
Right. Exactly. Like you're not allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it's hard because your channel is what it is and got to that point because
Right.
of that part of you. And for someone to be like, just ignore it is like, it's almost like it's like if you saw someone who was hurt and you obviously, most people are going to have an urge to help that person. But someone's telling you like, oh, just ignore it. It's like, it's the same thing. It's just a different, you know, situation of stress where you feel like you either need to clear. Because I think the frustrating part as a creator is that like, if you have a difference of opinion or, you know, a critique or something, my instinct is like, let's get to the same page. But so many people it's not about getting on the same page. That's the problem. It's the whole, like, you can't use logic because they don't want to, there is no get on the same page. That's not their goal.
Right.
You know, and I think that with the tone and how you can kind of infer, because there's a difference between like constructive feedback versus just like troll comment or whatever.
Yeah, of course. Like, and that is a
and
thing.
You can tell.
Yeah, I can delete just someone who clicks on random videos and leaves like rude, insulting things.
Yeah, that's like what that
literally
easy
doesn't
to
bother
just
me.
Be like, okay, whatever. Yeah,
it's annoying, and that is also a thing where I know some people just never check their comments, but you do need to moderate to an extent to delete that kind of stuff or spam or whatever. And even as on top of it as I am, and I think we are with comments, there's still like, it's hard to find the threaded replies. So just the way YouTube works and YouTube Studio works, you can get notified of a comment, you can reply to that comment, but you don't really get notified of the reply to the reply. So that's why a lot of times, like if you leave a comment and I reply to it and you reply back and I ghost you, it's because I can't find that one comment on that one video ever again. And I never will. But it also means I'm not necessarily going to see, I can see all the top level comments
like,
easily,
back and forth,
but I can't see. Yeah. If there's a comment thread that has 37, and sometimes I'll click on one of my videos and I'll see things where it is like a whole discussion. And sometimes it's people arguing and being mean to each other. I'm like, oh, I hate that this is here. But it is what it is. And at the very least, I'm moderating the top level comments to filter that stuff out. But it means you got to see it and you're going to, you know, so that approach of like, just ignore it is.
I just think that's so like,
especially if you want, like you said, you want to engage, and I don't mind. A big thing is I couldn't care less if somebody wants to offer a critical or an opposing viewpoint. That's
right. That's not, obviously that's
if
not what
anything,
it's
that's
about.
welcome. I have videos where I've pinned those comments, not out of a snarky way, but because it's like, oh, here's a flip side to the coin. So like it gives you a fuller picture of what we're talking about here.
Well, it just goes back to like, there's internet life and real life. And if you were to meet, you know, okay, like Tom and I this morning on the way to breakfast drove by a car show. If someone has a car of like an opposing rival brand, it's not like you're going to be like, that car sucks. You both share in the enthusiasm of like,
there might be like good
whatever.
natured ribbing, like people with sports, like I like them despite there being like a Dallas fan or whatever. I don't know sports, but
like you know what I mean? Like, it's not about attacking the person. Like, and you could just have like a conversation about, this is why I chose this or whatever. And it's not this like, you're ugly. Why are you even saying that?
Yeah, the
like,
thing
what
about,
are you talking about?
I don't get the personal appearance ones as often as like you do, just because you're a girl, which is terrible and unfair, but unfortunately just how it works. But I do get them, and my advice to anyone who wants to leave a comment about anybody's appearance, positive or negative, is don't at all, unless they ask for it. If it's a video where they say, hey, I did my hair, do you like my hair? Just don't, because I think even positive stuff, depending on the person, the mood they're in, it might not be, if that's not what the video's about. We're talking about a microphone, we're talking about a camera, we're talking about whatever. I don't need to know about, you know, my beard or whatever it might be, like a lisp that I now am super self-conscious about that I don't even know that I have or whatever.
I don't know. It's hard because I understand that all, you know, the comments come with the territory. And you have to really accept that. And I think what's been interesting about your channel is that we knew that you entered a new phase. Like, and it's like
You could feel it,
yeah,
kind of.
like if you are starting YouTube, you know, eventually, like,
Yeah.
that your channel gets to that point where, oh my gosh, I can't read every comment. Like that's, you know, it doesn't happen to everybody, but you always think about like, oh, what would it be like to get to that point?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that is we've talked about that. Like, you start out, yeah, if you're getting one comment a week, reply to it. Read it, reply to it. And then you hit a point, your channel grows, and you might hit a point where you can't keep up with every comment because you're getting so many. But there is this middle ground, which it's everything from, you know, a handful of comments a day to like a lot, but still enough that you could technically get to them all. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it's sort of like, it's almost like an overlooked part. I don't know. How do you handle your comments? I don't even know how often you check yours or respond to them or anything. I know it's changed a lot over the years, I'm sure.
So, well, it's changed because I haven't been creating anything. Like, I haven't made a video for myself.
But I feel like you're always telling me about like couples table.
Yeah, the couples table is great. I check all those. And well, okay, so I still get notifications like for all my comments, and I read every single one. I just don't respond. But it's not because I don't want to.
Even if you haven't made a video in a while or whatever, you're still getting real-time notification of anytime somebody posts something. Okay.
Yeah. So I still get a lot of comments on my tutorials, like my Canva tutorials.
Yeah.
And the couples table will always get comments. And luckily, like, I think, you know, I'm at the point where since I wouldn't even consider myself active on YouTube at this point because the couples table is not, you know, we've been very clear that we're not like trying to
it's
grow
a pretty
this.
Casual thing. Yeah.
I mean, there's content being uploaded, but for the most part, I would consider myself like not active right now. It's like it's always going to be positive people. It's like a majority.
Well, I mean, the vast majority of comments are positive, and that's also like, to me, that's kind of part of it, is because I feel like if somebody is sharing support, asking a genuine question, offering some insight, starting a conversation, I put out this video, they gave me their time to watch the video, and now they're giving me more time by like kind of adding into that communication. And I feel like it's a good thing to reciprocate in some way. I've had to learn that like, oh, every comment isn't even necessarily to me. Like they literally might not.
It's just like,
they're starting a different discussion or something, and that's fine. And obviously, like, a lot of them are to me, and most of them are positive. And so I want to go through and see them. The problem is there's no way to filter, like, here's the positive ones, here's the negative ones. So, you know, you can do it's. I'm going to go through and see, you know, whatever comments have popped up in the last day. And most of them are going to be positive. But as I'm scrolling through those positive ones, there's going to be just like the random, really terrible one. Like, you talk about cameras. Why does your video look so terrible? Like, you should at least do this. And then it's like, then I go down a whole thing of like, oh my God, like, do I not know how to, you know, color grade, or is my focus bad? Do I not know how to use things? Like, am I a fraud for, it's a whole thing. Cause it's like it's a sucker punch. You don't really expect it. And
comes out of nowhere. Yeah,
and there's no way to avoid it, and there's no way to know when it's happening. And it's just going to happen sometimes. Yeah. And it's hard. So I found a strategy.
What's your strategy?
That's been working, and it's been great. So what I have decided to do, we talked about this, I think you and I talked about this on here in some previous episode about calendars and scheduling stuff, where we
time block.
Time blocking, but when you look at your calendar and you see an open, empty day on the calendar, it doesn't mean
you're free.
It doesn't mean you're free.
Yes.
And you and I have both dealt with somebody asks, hey, can you do a meeting on this day? Can you do this thing at this day? And you look at it and there's nothing on the calendar, and you feel obligated to say yes. And I think we both had to learn that, like, no, it doesn't mean say yes just because there's nothing there, because a blank day on the calendar still includes everything that still includes like work and life and being a person and a bunch of stuff. And so I think your strategy is you try to put as much on your calendar as possible so you remember that, right? Like, you look at the days and you actually see, oh yeah, this is everything I need to do, even if it's just stuff that doesn't affect anybody else.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably pretty smart. I still have the empty days. I like the empty days. But but I felt guilty for so long of, whatever it might be. Can someone ask, could you be a guest on my podcast? And I look at the calendar and I go, I don't have anything on the calendar on that day. So that means I have to say yes.
No.
I know. It's taken me a while to learn this, a long while to learn this.
Now I take every opportunity. I think it's because we were so, like last year, I had like 3 live streams a week.
Your schedule was
so
nuts.
crazy.
I wouldn't know how you did
and
that.
I just grinded to a halt like in December and haven't been able to like stand back
so
up
your
yet.
periods of activity and then inactivity average
I'm all or
out
nothing,
to still like...
Dude, it's like I need to run 100 miles an hour or not move.
Yeah,
I don't know why I do that.
For a huge chunk of 2021, you did... Your Mondays were basically just back-to-back coaching calls.
Back-to-back meetings.
Literally...
Like at least 5 meetings.
Back-to-back with maybe time to grab a quick lunch bite. Tuesday you did from 1 to 100.
And I had to prep for it.
That was a lot of prep.
And everything.
You were scheduling people in advance. You were like building graphics and doing all those assets and stuff.
Wednesday was a day off, thank goodness.
Wednesday was... But
it was errand day.
Yeah, but it's still errands. It's still taking care of like personal business. Your actual like work stuff.
Wednesday was my no makeup day.
Yeah, you just didn't have to be on camera.
Yeah.
Thursday's couples table, and then Friday was YouTube huddle ups. It's 3 live streams, plus you're making, I think, 2 videos a week, 2 tutorial videos a week, plus you're doing client work.
I know, it was it's so crazy.
But
now I've learned so all of that has stopped. I just stopped everything. Well, I think I just burnt out in December, and then I haven't the only thing that's standing on the calendar. No more clients. Except for one. No client meetings. Yeah.
But which is kind of good. You sort of tailored things to sort of suit.
Well, things changed.
Things changed, and you were able to sort of fit it in a way where it's like, hey, my calendar.
But now I look at every opportunity as it's not about the calendar. I shouldn't even look at the calendar. That should be the second thing. It's take every opportunity.
Yes.
Do I want to do this at all?
Yes.
Then I'll look if I'm free or where I can, fit
There
it in.
are so many things where it's like, yeah, I can do this, but I know once that's on my calendar, I'm going to be dreading it. And it's going to bother me. And it's and there's no way around it, because it's you can schedule. Sometimes people will say, oh, we could schedule something, a meeting, an interview, whatever it might be. We'll schedule it in the evening so it doesn't interfere with the workday. But it's well, now my day's longer and I'm more tired. Okay, well, to not take time out, so let's schedule it during work time. Okay, but now I have to schedule all my work stuff around this thing. And it's just there are very few things that I want to do that for. And but there are some things that I do, and then I get really excited about it. And those are the things to listen to of I would actually be super excited to do this. Can't wait. Now, where could I put it on the calendar?
So how does this relate to comments?
So the way that this relates to comments is there are people who get probably the total number of comments my channel has ever gotten in the past 5 years. They get that daily or weekly. And so it's literally impossible to keep up with them. There are those people. And then there's people at the very beginning, you get 1 comment a week or a month or something when you're just starting out. Very easy to keep up with that. But then there's the middle.
Yeah.
So on mine, I don't know how many I get per day, but I usually get I've looked at it, I think it's 800 top level comments a month or something, which I don't know.
That's a lot.
I guess we can ask Siri. What's 800 divided by 30?
You have to talk like that?
It's about 26.6.
Okay. So 26 comments a day about just the top level ones that I actually see. That probably sounds about right. That's actually manageable. You can read 26 comments a day. You can reply to 26 comments a day.
No, but your comments are so long.
They are. A lot of them are long, which is funny because that's where I would have been prior to YouTube, is let me contextualize everything you could possibly want to know. Being on this side of it, don't do that, because it's probably not going to get read as what I do is I go, this is a really long thing. It needs more time and attention. I'll get to it when I have more time.
And I never end up responding.
I do. I do.
Because you're a really good person.
Thank you.
I get lazy and just pick up the Nintendo
But
Switch.
it's days. For me, it'll be days. And then I'm kind of I have that big thing I have to get back to. Whereas if someone just says hey, you said this, but what about that? I'll get to that.
So easy to respond to.
Very easy.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are, whether it's a question, and I'm trying, as hard as it is, I'm trying to not answer the tech support questions anymore, because it's when someone's what cable do I plug in to go here? And it's I know the answer to that, but Google. I don't know. Like maybe I'm not. Why wouldn't you go to Google? Like
I know.
it's so much
Why-
faster than waiting for me to see this and reply to it. But anyway, point being, I can read all my comments every day. I can reply to them every day, and that's what I've been doing for a long time. But it's just like the calendar thing. Because I can do it, then I feel like I should do it. And sometimes, I mean, that we'll say that 25, 26 comments, it can take an hour or more to go through all of them and actually read them, actually reply to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I'm doing research based on comments. Someone's like, what about this? And you said this, but I heard the specification was that. And then I'm digging into like, let me go find up a product manual from 2002 and which I don't need to do. But it's like, the back of my mind is like, oh, you put that comment there and then other people can see it. So it's like you're building a resource, which it probably isn't because then somebody else can ask the exact same question because they didn't read the first comment anyway. But anyway, what I learned was just because I can doesn't mean I should. So what I started doing maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago was 15 minutes a day, and that's it.
That's
and
good.
And the reason for that was because of the negative comments, which, like I said, were just sucker punching me out of nowhere when I wouldn't expect it. If I'm really tired at the end of the day, hearing something negative is going to affect me very different than it would when I'm full of energy or something. So being able to go, okay, I'm not going to look at this at all until a specific time of day that I choose, which is different every time. It's just whenever I feel like it. I just set my watch timer for 15 minutes. And then I know going into that, you're going to see positive things. You're going to see negative things, like put up the thick skin, put up the like objective.
Yeah, be intentional.
Be in the
and
right
be
mindset
prepared.
to
Yeah.
go with it. And then it is much easier to, to objectively consider the negative stuff, which is really helpful. Because a lot of times I just delete it, but sometimes, like I've talked about here, you might get something which is like, oh, like, how much did Sony pay you for this video? I always worry that if I just delete that, as stupid and ignorant and annoying as it is, then it's this thing of like, he deletes any time that you say that he was paid for this. So that really makes him look guilty. Like it's that kind of a thing. So sometimes I'll pick one of those and I'll respond to it, usually kind of snarkily because the person deserves it because they're stupid for asking that question. But that's sort of like, here's my thing. So I figure people will read through, they're going to see like, oh, look at this person. Oh, like the guy from the channel replied, and then they see my reply. And that is my response to that question. I'm not going to respond to that question again on that video. But whatever it might be. And that's where the harder part is I don't get through all of them.
Right.
And so
you have to be intentional with which ones you're going to respond to.
Well, and I don't know how to do that short of like reading through everything and doing this whole thing. So literally I kind of just start usually at the top, sometimes at the bottom, and just get through what I get through. And I know that there are comments, probably amazing comments from really nice people that I'll never read. And it kind of tears me up inside. But it's been so much better to just go like, hey, I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to do that. And then I'm done. And that lets me spend more time being a sane person, being more time making the things that they want to comment on anyway.
You do have to draw the boundaries, right? Like, because no one's going to do that for you. So you have to, and you got to protect the asset, right? Like it's going to be you. And if you're going to be in a bad mood and this is the source of your bad mood, and then you're not going to.
It's going to put you in a creative funk where like, I've just sat here for 90 minutes being told what an idiot I am. Now I'm going to go make something.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Right. Yeah. So, it's just, and there's so many times where I go like, I need to go make a video or do a podcast or whatever. And I come in, I'll just check comments real quick. And then 45 minutes passes, I'm going through that. And I'm like, wait, and I had all these amazing ideas and stuff I was going to do. And now I'm like tired and kind of frustrated. And it's like, maybe the better thing to do is focus on making the things.
Right.
And I just hope that that if there are people who are just genuine, nice people, asking something, saying something, they don't feel neglected or ignored, which, what's helped is me thinking that I don't feel that way when I go to somebody's channel and I leave a comment and they don't reply or give me a heart or whatever. It doesn't even faze me.
Yeah, you're not even thinking about it anymore.
Yeah, it's just, I think you and I have both gotten into the habit as YouTube creators of never leaving negative comments.
Yep.
Not that I ever would have before, but we just don't leave negative comments. A negative comment is not watching the video.
That's the negative comment.
Yeah, but when watching a video, having a positive comment or a positive thought, leaving that as a comment, because it's very easy to passively watch a video and be like, Even like yesterday, I watched this amazing video about refinishing guitars, and I learned a bunch from it. And I realized I hadn't even thumbsed up the video, and I was like, how do I like a video where it's like a cat eating 5 hot dogs or something? But this video that taught me a skill in a great way that I'm going to use for the rest of my life, I haven't even like, I'm trying to remember that. But yeah, to realize like this was super valuable. Yes, it's my little thumbs up might contribute to something greater on the platform in general, or, you know, maybe they didn't know if this was a good, effective tutorial or something. So if I leave a thing saying, thanks for showing me how to do blank, like I'm excited to try it out, now they'll know, yeah, this was a good way to do it. So trying to do that, but I don't care if they don't reply.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to.
Right.
And so it's just remembering that that's kind of how everybody probably approaches it. Even the people who leave the super jerky comments probably forget about them 5 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it's like, I really wish you would just, if
not
you completely disagree, walk away, man.
Just go somewhere else.
I know. Like why do you have to bring your baggage here?
You're going to take me down. You're going to uncover it. Like, exposed.
Like, oh my God. God forbid you get like someone who's like,
oh, I've gotten those many times. It's always
like someone making a video about like exposing you. God, I would die.
Someone did one where it was like I was wrong about something and this is why, but it was like fairly respectful. It was just sort of odd. And I can't find it anymore. It was about a microphone. Shocking.
Not that I'm like, you know, anti that. It's just like I said, if you're listening to this podcast, you know how thoughtful Tom is. Like he always wants to do right by people. He's like, does everything by the book. Like he's so above board. This is a high school teacher, you know, California State teacher nominee of the year. Like he's a very good man. Okay. And then for someone to be like, just.
Well, you know how, I mean, we've talked about this from literally the day we met. The tale that can be told online and your story that can be told online, because that's like the number one thing. Feels like it's less confusing now, but especially when we met, it felt like that was such a thing. People are asking, like, how do you put yourself out there? What if people see this? What if that? And our response was kind of always, you know,
well, if you don't, then someone else will.
Yeah, exactly. Or nobody will.
Yeah.
And if you know, if I make hundreds of videos that are of a certain quality and seem to be pretty transparent, honest, and I have podcasts about it and all this stuff, and then someone shows up and says, like, here's why this guy's a liar, that's why hopefully pretty obvious.
That's why it's funny when you read some of the comments to me and I see how much it bothers you, like that Sony one.
Yeah.
It would not bother me in the slightest because I know, and everyone who is a subscriber and a viewer that matters also knows. And they're gonna
I know that.
They're gonna see that and be like, wow, bro, you're an idiot, without you even having to respond.
Sometimes I do sometimes if it's something where I'm like, I don't want to delete this, but I don't want to respond to it, I just leave it, I'll downvote it because, you know, send it to the bottom of the pyramid. Dislike. But I kind of figure that there will be people who might step in. Not that I want like someone to get trolled or messed with, but someone might step in and go like, come on, man, like that's not.
I mean, you have been doing this. You have the thing that so many people don't have, which is consistency. Like you have a brand that's been built over years. It speaks for itself, you know, and obviously 99% of these people don't have their own channels.
The blank profile picture with a blank channel.
Yeah.
Leaving a comment.
To me, it's like someone leaving that type of content that isn't, again, be critical all day. But if you're, attacking you or the creator or whatever, it's like that's just says so much more about the commenter than it does about you or anything that you're saying.
There's so many ways to approach it too, because I think we talked about this on the couples table, but somebody had said something, I forget what it was, but it was like, you know, you're an idiot for this and this is terrible and you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, at the core of whatever their comment was, they did bring up a point that I didn't mention in the video. Can't even remember what it was now, but
so why it's do you fair. Have to be mad?
Yeah, it's fair enough to go like, hey, here's also like,
hey, did you know about this or did you check this out? By the way, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, add to the conversation.
And lots of people will do that. You know, great video. By the way, the reason this happening is because of this. It's super simple. You know, like Somebody even did
Like,
that in my Sony video, for example. I was like, oh, one of the things that bothers me is like the touchscreen is inconsistent. Some settings are, some aren't. Like you can't do exposure. And someone was like, oh, you totally can set the screen to
Right.
do exposure. I was like, oh, I'll just dig into the menu more. Thanks, I didn't know. That's great.
Because that's how people talk in real life.
Yeah, it's really,
Okay,
it's like
and
helpful.
that's not how. Yeah, like why is it that because you're showing someone how to do something on the internet, you are the monster?
Especially like, and I guess the difference would be if I were claiming to be the expert, if I were claiming that this is the right
America's
opinion,
favorite magician.
the only way to do it. If I were making some sort of claim like that, and then someone was like, wait, this isn't the only way to do it, or that is incorrect information, that would be different. But I don't, and nobody we know in the YouTube space, nobody we watch positions themselves as that, even if they are basically experts in their field. They never claim to be, they never position themselves that way. It's just like, here's my thing that I do. And you can kind of judge for
Because
yourself.
at the end of the day, it's like your enthusiasm for what you do is so clear. It speaks louder than anything
Hopefully.
else.
I don't know. And then I get to this weird point sometimes of going like, and this I feel bad for this because I don't think it's right, but I'm like, maybe everyone doesn't need to have an opinion about everything all the time. And I know that's like the point of the internet is everyone can, but it's like maybe
This is totally why I stopped going on social media.
Well,
I'm tired of feeling like I need to react to everyone's reactions. Like I'm just so because this is not real life. Like this is not how people. Just because I say I like pancakes doesn't mean that I'm saying I hate waffles.
right. Exactly.
But on social media, it's just like, oh, so you're saying that blah blah blah. Like, what are you? Where are we going?
Yeah.
Like, why are we going here? Why are you so mad? Like, why? And it sucks. I want to, like how you said, you think the internet's gotten meaner. I really think that a big part of it was the pandemic because like I think that, you know,
of course,
the first year it was this magical thing where like, wow, we can still stay connected despite being quarantined. Everyone jumped online, started a podcast, started a YouTube channel, picked up new hobbies. You know, there's friendships that were built.
Oh yeah.
With people across times and distances because
Time
of
and
the
space.
internet. Yeah, like which is so cool. Like I
It
love
is.
that. But now it's like I think people have spent too much time online where you see, you know, 240 characters or whatever, and that 2 sentences says everything that you need to know about that person, and like that. But that's not how it is. Like that's not.
Yeah, and it's tough because as people get more savvy with things, everything can look and sound good or be presented in a polished way, which feels like that gives everything. Like if somebody made like that reaction video or whatever, like Tom Buck exposed video you were meant, the hypothetical one. If somebody made that and it was like a well-produced video, even if it was full of just obvious lies, the fact that it's almost like in the older days when someone would write something down, it's like, well, if it's written down, it has more weight to it.
It's true.
Even if it's just made up, still, it's sort of the same thing. Like they put this into a video, they said it, they showed a B-roll clip of his channel.
Oh my gosh.
It's got to be true.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it harder because it's so easy to make stuff that looks and sounds good, which traditionally has been associated with like that must mean it's credible, because it's very hard for things that aren't credible to look and sound good, and that's not the case anymore. And in that, that's a very interesting like side effect.
And that's the part where when people say, you know, just ignore negative comments, that's where I'm like, yeah. Because that's the stance that I've taken. I just stopped going on social media.
Right. Yeah, you have for months at this point.
Yeah. Because I'm tired. Like, I can't believe as being the internet's, like, #1 digital literacy advocate person, I went from, like, you know, being the #1 fan to I need to walk away. Because I just felt like it. Why does everyone have to be so negative? I hate how, like, when you meet someone in person, I feel like most people take the approach of like, oh, let me get to know this person. If I disagree with you.
I don't know if I could really think of times when I met someone that I just hated and didn't get along with in person for some.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if
that's
it's
never
ever
happened to me. Exactly. Because that's not how it is.
Obviously, we've met people who we disagree with and have different viewpoints from.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Why can't you do that? I mean, isn't that the beauty of, like, you know, individuality. Like, we need to not all be the same person, of course. But
Right.
online, it's like you are attacked for even saying anything. You know, like you create, by nature of you
Making
sharing
something.
this thing about cameras, you're an idiot because you failed to mention this other thing that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it goes into a whole other discussion of like it's just for YouTube. Like,
no, I don't want to
Yeah,
go there because
no.
it just pisses me off.
that's a whole separate episode. I'll be solo on that one. But
I don't know, and I don't feel like there is an answer.
no,
which is
there's
why-
not. Which
yeah.
is why I wanted to comment on this specifically, like just to bring it up. And then I think the biggest thing that I have learned is that taking control of it and that compartmentalization of like, here's my 15 minutes of a day that I choose to look at this.
I think that's a very smart way to do it.
Yeah. So
Because you're, like you said, you're in the mind space and you're
Yes.
being intentional, so you can do what you need to do in your head to prepare where it doesn't get you out of nowhere.
it doesn't interfere with the rest of your day.
Yeah.
It doesn't throw you into, because you go into it like expecting the worst. And there are plenty of days where I'm like, okay, here we go, dive in, and it's literally there's nothing bad. I'm like, oh,
But
okay.
see, it sucks. Like,
But you
it
never
sucks
know.
that you have to dread it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it has to be something you dread.
But it has been really helpful, and I would encourage, like, regardless of your audience size or whatever, but that idea of, you know, like, if you're getting alerts for every comment, that means you could be in bed playing a video game at night and suddenly like your phone buzzes and it's someone telling you you're an idiot and you're like,
Yeah. That's
I'm
like
just
someone
saying.
telling me that the breed of our corgi was a different.
telling
Breed
us
at
that our
1
dog
a.m.?
isn't the dog that it is.
Yeah. I was like, are you seriously? And then, oh my God, that comment was so, like, I remember to this day, it was
Yeah.
years ago, because you were playing the drums.
Right.
And Finley, we had just gotten Finley.
Right.
And we read in a puppy book that said
In the
that
first however many weeks or whatever, 12 weeks, like expose them to as much as possible.
expose them to
Especially
your
their
home
daily life,
what's
yeah.
going to be normal, because it needs to be normal for them.
Yes.
And Tom plays the drums. This
Yeah.
is a normal thing that
And
happens.
I will
multiple
never
times
play
a
the
week.
drums with the dogs in the room.
Of course, because obviously we know that, like,
Yeah.
it hurts my ears being in here when,
Yeah.
you know, when you're playing the drums. So, like, we were on the other side of the house. The door was closed to your room and you were playing the drums.
I played the drums for 8 seconds. It was not like I wasn't playing the full 45 minutes or an hour. It was just like Puppy's going to be in the other part of the house and he's going to hear what drums sound like.
And we were...
And you filmed it because we figured it might be interesting.
Yeah, I don't...
It's a funny memory. It's just a funny, like,
I don't... I
his
didn't,
first time
like,
hearing the drums.
I understand how if, depending on the type of content you watch on YouTube, you could see that as like, look what we did to our dog, like, you
Right.
know, you know.
Which was not the case.
But that's not what we were trying to do.
The video clip is super funny because he's sort of going around. You're like, okay, do it. You're right there with him, and he kind of like
he gets he
jumps up
definitely
and
gets
barks
nervous,
and
yeah.
like is confused.
And now he totally doesn't even care.
But
Because
it's not even
just,
now. He didn't care almost
second time,
immediately.
yeah.
Like literally the second or third time he realized it was a non-issue, and now he takes a nap when I play the drums.
Yeah. Not doesn't even care.
And that's how it should be.
I mean,
but of
all
course,
used to
you
be,
got
like,
comments
right next to your door when you
Yeah.
play the drums.
You got comments of people about how we're
No, it was
abusive.
just the one comment,
Oh, yeah.
not comments. It was just the one comment.
The one comment.
Who was like, "Oh, you know, you're just." I can't believe it's something like, "I can't believe you subjected your dog for YouTube content
Yeah.
to that." And it's like,
You also had a comment.
I see why you got that. Like, I know why you say that, because if I saw that on Logan Paul's channel, I would think the same thing.
Yeah,
you
I would
know?
hate the idea of somebody potentially scarring a puppy
Yeah,
for
but-
entertainment.
But that is so not what I
That's
did
not
or
what happened.
Yeah, like that's not. We didn't do it for YouTube content. I just happened to record something that we would have done anyway.
Yeah, and
Like,
you put it on like a small personal video. It wasn't like Corky gets freaked out by
yeah,
drums.
like that
it was
wasn't,
like
yeah.
it was a small clip in a larger
wasn't-
video about like getting a puppy and stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's like because again, if you know me and you've watched my previous vlogs and videos, all of the other comments were like, "Oh my God, Finley's so cute,"
Yeah,
blah
of
blah blah,
course.
like because people know. But if it's just like
Yeah, it's so
it's like you bring in the. And I understand that. See, this is my problem because I always try to see the other side. Like, I understand why you're seeing something that I'm not, right? Like,
yeah.
I see why I like pancakes, you're going to infer that as like, so you hate waffles. I see why you do that, but that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Like, I wish you would just take what I'm saying.
I think we all do that naturally. If I love waffles and you love pancakes and you say you love pancakes, I'm initially going to go like, I'm a waffle person. But then hopefully also in a split second, I'm going to go like, and that's fine. She's not, I can still like my waffles. Why can't you just
be like, oh yeah, I had some really great pancakes, blah, 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 but I actually like waffles better. Like what?
Yeah.
That's what normal people do.
Oh, like I've always just been on the waffle side of things.
Like, okay, God forbid we tell anybody we're vegetarian, because now it's like, forget.
Just
now
don't
it's like
bring it up.
Now it's a statement.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you just be vegetarian?
Yeah.
It's not like you're saying, I don't know. Anyway.
Is it going to make you mad if I eat this steak right here? No, I don't care. Like, but so the last thing, which is sort of an interesting one, I guess it's just the way that it is it actually has to do with podcast comments. This sounds like I'm setting up a joke.
What does that even mean?
So I guess more ratings, not comments. Podcast
reviews.
Yes, which is unlike YouTube, where you can turn comments off on a video on YouTube. You can delete comments, whatever. You can't modify them.
The thing I hate about reviews is that person will listen to 5 minutes of one episode and leave your review of the whole podcast.
Of course. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't even reply to it. It's not even like a Yelp thing where the business owner can reply to the review. It's just sort of there. I don't really care. Like, I want my podcast, this show, to do well. I want ours to do well, but they're not like,
oh, do we have reviews?
I don't know, honestly, because I don't check them.
I totally forgot.
And we don't, sometimes people will say like, this sounds like I'm low-key asking people, but sometimes people will say rate and review or whatever. I don't even use Apple Podcasts for my main player that much anymore, because it's like it's really bad. But Apple Podcast is the predominant place that people listen to podcasts. It's just on no matter who you are, if you look at your podcast analytics, probably well over 50% of them are going to come from Apple Podcasts. So it's an important platform to be on, and the rating system is a big part of it and has been ever since the beginning. But the rating system actually affects the way that it surfaces shows to people and order shows, which I guess if you're saying my show's just for funsies and who cares, it doesn't really matter if it's on the bottom of the pile, because you can just link to it for the people who actually want it. But my point being is that someone can show up, give you a 1-star thing, and it takes stuff down, and then that actually hurts the show.
Are you serious? Like,
yes.
Yeah, no, I know you're serious.
No.
But, like, I feel like this is nothing compared to what Yelp did to small businesses.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm not a small business. I guess people do use their podcast as a business.
Straight up businesses closed because of one negative Yelp review.
I know. It's the thing that brought it to me was that I accidentally found the reviews for this podcast, and I was like, it was like,
the one that we're on right now.
Yeah, it's like you have this episode. No, but it was like you have like 50 reviews or something. I was like, oh wow, and it was 5 stars or almost 5 stars, because there was one like super negative review which I like folded into my thing at the beginning, and I was like,
oh, is this it?
It was part of it. I don't have the full thing up here, but it was, and it wasn't like a rude one. But it was somebody there's actually a second part to this. So a couple times now I've been a guest host on the Buzzcast, which is Buzzsprout's podcast. And that's really fun. And that's a very structured show, especially the ones I've been a part where like we were going over like analytics and all this kind of stuff. And of course, when you're on somebody else's show, they will also say like, hey, thanks for being here. Like, where can people find you? And they'll put your links and things. So somebody who liked me on there a couple times, which is really nice, wanted to find my own show. And I totally get it. If you're hearing me in a structured thing where I have 4 minutes to talk about a specific topic, and then I'm just piping in every so often for the rest of the hour, you might expect that, well, his personal show is going to do this. And I think my most recent episode was something about channel analytics. And his negative review just describes an episode of this podcast, which is like, I clicked on it expecting a thing about analytics, but then he spent the first part of it just like talking about microphones and doing microphone comparisons. And then he went on like tangent here and this there and whatever. And like, my tip for him is to, I forget exactly how it's worded, but that's where it was like, my tip for him is to maybe like learn how to make a podcast that's not just 15 minutes stretched into 55 minutes. And and then it's like a low rating. I was like, God, this is so unnecessarily mean to like go out of your way to leave a review too. Like I've heard podcasts I don't like. I just stopped listening to them. But now it hurts the show, and the criticism I don't even think is valid because you didn't understand what the show was. It's like when people show up and say like, please stop making dad jokes on your channel. It's really annoying. The puns are super stupid. You're not wrong that the puns are stupid, but that's what we do here.
Right.
Like you went into the pun
Sir,
factory and we're like, why are there puns? Yeah. Like it's so it's okay not to like that. It's okay that it's not for you, but it doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that it's incorrect. It just means that it's not the thing for you. And so you should go find the thing that is for you. And I don't even mean that in an offensive way, but like go find the other thing that is what you're looking for. It's just not this.
Yourself.
Yeah, go F yourself. F for find. But the thing about that is like that's also what has like, you know, like the microphone at the beginning of this talked about microphones. You know why? Because I get messages all throughout the week about what microphone did it sound like this, that, and the other thing. It's like part of what this show is seeing all the different microphones and things that I talk about on my channel used in an application.
This is such an interesting predicament humans are dealing with in 2020.
Like
we're not someone like 50 years ago. Like
I know
what the
we're just not built. I know everybody's heard the like you're just not built to get that much feedback that often. But
I'm also still very fascinated that this is what we are having to like go through.
Well, my point here with that, I mean, you it's way more serious, like you mentioned with the Yelp stuff, but is this person stumbled into my show. I'm bummed that they initially liked me and then realized it wasn't for them. That's a bummer. It's okay. But to then do something that's now going to permanently negatively impact the show kind of sucks. Like, totally. and I can't do anything about it. I can't even leave a reply to that review that says, oh, sorry, it wasn't for you. Like, if you heard me from this other thing, that's really structured. My show really is a little more loosely structured usually. So this is kind of, this is what an episode is. And I could at least explain so if someone else reads it and they're like, oh, that's why. Like a Yelp review.
Like our friend Carissa. This is long story short, but she has a Filipino restaurant. Used to. And then COVID. But used to have a Filipino restaurant. Was like considered a gem in the area they were located. And then she would get Yelp reviews of, oddly enough, Filipino people who would be like, this isn't real Filipino food, 1 star. And it sucks because it's like Filipino cuisine is not even on the map. Shouldn't you be happy that they're actually like there's one restaurant? So
the alternative is nothing.
Yeah. And like
or this really good restaurant that just isn't your grandma's cooking.
Yeah. And then so her approach was just don't read any Yelp reviews. But it sucks because like of course that 1 star could be like, oh, yeah, you know how much we always go to Yelp to find where to eat. And imagine if like your 5 stars is now 3 stars because of people who were like, this is not my grandma's cooking.
Same thing on, like Amazon reviews are an entire mess.
That's a whole
that we don't even need to get into right now. But we've joked so many times where it's like the review is 1 star because the box was damaged in shipping. It's like that doesn't even help me as someone looking for the product. It's hurting the this is not that. Like this is not the place. It's just not what but it's there just as valid as the person who's leaving like an actual review. And that's the part where it's like everything is just equally as valid all the time.
I wish I still am a digital literacy advocate. Like I feel like there needs to be internet
the literacy
101.
part.
Yeah, like I feel like you should understand how the internet works and that like things like that. If you order something on Amazon, does it mean that every part of the process is,
Yeah, your Amazon review is about the product.
Yes.
If there's a problem with the shipping, their customer service might help you or something, but that's not like the company that sold you the product. Like if your UPS guy kicked the box or whatever delivery service, like dropped the box and dented it, that's not on the seller.
Or like, remember like back in elementary school when you could do like teacher for a day or principal for the day and then like the principal would be a student for the day or whatever. Like let's switch for the negative roles. Comment person, like come over here, go through my comments, like see my process, sit with me a while and let's talk. How much you want to bet? Number 1, we're going to get along quite fine. Yeah. And 2, you're going to be like, wow, I didn't realize that this is everything that you put into what you do. Like, your passion is admirable, regardless of whether agree
if they
with-
watch the actual thing
Yes,
from like
like-
you coming up with an idea to the finished video, they'd
you
be like,
put your
oh,
heart and soul into every frame.
yeah, literally. And then, oh, this is this is what I just
you're
came
just
and
gonna-
thumbs down or whatever.
You're
Like,
just gonna dismiss it? Like, I don't know, man.
and I would venture to say, I can't say this definitively, but I would be willing to bet money on it that I don't know that I've ever gotten one of those negative comments from someone who also makes
Of course,
stuff. I don't think I have.
Of course.
I've had people disagree with me. Like, I made that video about the GoPro Hero 10, and people just love to hate GoPros for some reason, which is weird. But I remember there's one comment I got specifically, which was like this person saying, like, you said this camera's perfect, and it is absolutely not. Like, it did not stand up to this, that, and the other thing. And I clicked on a thing. They had a large channel that was about ice hockey. We were talking about ice hockey earlier today. It was about ice hockey. And he wanted a GoPro, an action camera to do hockey. And it was like, oh, the camera was in like sub-zero temperatures and getting hit with a puck and like smashed against the wall and stuff. And it like stopped working sometimes. I was like, okay, fair enough that it's not the camera for you. But you know what I don't need it to do? So when I say it's...
And most people
Yeah.
probably.
So when I say like, hey, it's a perfect camera for me, it is. I don't do those things. So I don't need it to do that. But even that at least was like... I could see like it was sort of a weird thing. I think it was like 100,000 plus subscriber channel too. Like, it was kind of like a larger end thing, but at least it was like the comment wasn't insultingly negative. It was like pretty critical, but then at least I was able to go like, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I think your approach is off a little bit. But beyond stuff like that, I don't think anyone who makes stuff does those things, because why would you? So anyway, yeah, if you have any thoughts about this, I would be happy to hear them. You can always send an email or a text or video.
I think we're going to continue in some... Oh, but this is going to come out after the couple's table.
Yeah, so we're recording this. This is going to come out in a week from the time we're recording it.
Oh, yeah.
So this will be after the episode you're talking about. So what you could
go
do...
watch the most recent episode of the couple's table, because I think we're going to have a similar conversation
on
about
youtube.com/HeatherJustCreate.
Yes.
And if you have any thoughts or comments or anything that you want to add that I can include in a future episode, you can always email them to tom@enthusiasmproject.com. And like I mentioned, next week's episode is going to be a Q&A. So if you're listening to this when it goes live, keep an eye out on social medias this week, because I'll be posting a thing to submit questions, and then you can have your question on the Q&A next week. So as always, thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you, Heather, for spending your time with me on season 6. And I hope you have a safe, happy, healthy, fun rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.